And it's BBO War, Black Box Online Radio, coming to you Virginia at heart and from around the globe. And hello, everybody. Today is Thursday. It is time for True Crime Talk Radio in the morning. And because today is Thursday, you can say hello to the Fox here. And how is everybody doing? You guys know the drill. You can hit the like button if you want, subscribe if you haven't, and drop something in the live chat if you have something to say. And if you're listening to this in the future, you can put it in the comments section, as well as checking out the show for free downloads on Spotify and anywhere you get your podcasts under the names Black Box True Crime or Black Box Podcast. And you guys might be wondering, why does this episode have the name The End of True Crime Talk Radio? We even have Jerome in the chat, Mysteries with Mr. Belgique, who says, the end of True Crime Talk Radio. I hope you're not talking about BBO War. Oh, no. The channel Black Box Online Radio is still going to be here, but every Tuesday and Thursday for the summer and the autumn of terror, I've been coming to you guys live for this segment, True Crime Talk Radio in the morning. And I'm just here to announce that there will be a halt on the live streams for the remainder of this year, but they will be resuming in 2025. I was working over the summer in Macau, actually. Some of you may have noticed the different background for the summer when I was doing the lives in Macau. And, I was working full time then. But for the last several months, I've been focused only on Black Box Online Radio. However, this was all part of the plan for 2024. It is time to return to work offline, and I'm simply not going to have as much time as I've had in the past to devote to this channel. And I'm going to keep up with a lot of the regular programming. There's still going to be Zodiac Monday. That will be coming out every Monday, talking to you guys about the Zodiac Killer. I'm going to try my best to keep up with Cooper Friday and put out regular episodes about DB Cooper. And the YouTube shorts that come out will be coming out 6 days a week at a minimum, maybe 7 if I'm going through the stories well enough. And I think that those have been a very good way to share different types of stories. Most of them focus on serial killers, but I've talked about a lot of other true crime cases in the shorts. But again, to be clear, this segment, True Crime Talk Radio in the morning, will be on hiatus for the remainder of 2024, but absolutely it's going to be coming back because I wanted to use this as an opportunity to talk to you guys in the chat just about the future of Black Box Online Radio. And it's kind of hard for me to put this into words, but I think that True Crime Talk Radio in the morning has been the best thing that I've ever done for this channel because it's interactive. I get to talk to you. And also, it's something that I've wanted to create for a very long time. As many of you know, I was running a second YouTube channel where I would put out one episode every so often. Sometimes it was once a week, sometimes once a month. And that channel was called AstroPsych 400. And in 2023, I really explored the possibility of creating a morning show, a daily show to listen to called AstroPsych Morning that would be more focused on psychology as opposed to true crime content. And, I explored that possibility, but I have to be honest with you guys. The heart and soul of what I tried to do is Black Box Online Radio. So I was like, no, Black Box Online Radio is the place for me to do mostly everything on YouTube, unless I'm a guest on somebody else's program, such as Jerome's channel, Mysteries with Mr. Belgique. I invite you to go over there and like and subscribe. A lot of great stuff coming out on Mysteries with Mr. Belgique. And Charlie says, I almost forgot the Black Box Online Radio show comes at 9:30 now. Yes, because of the time change. Many of you guys know that I'm here in the Philippines, and I am doing this at 9:30 a.m., but things will resume to the normal schedule next year, and I'll be coming out at the regularly slotted time. And Charlie also says, Ned said True Crime Talk Radio, not BBO War. Yes, and Black Box Online Radio is not going to be going anywhere. There will just be fewer episodes that are going to be coming out on a weekly basis. But to all of you who follow the Zodiac Killer mystery and Zodiac Monday, you're all absolutely amazing. I'm still going to be putting out interviews and Zodiac Killer news reports. And I really wanted to use this as an opportunity to interview a lot of people. Like I've had Mike Morford on the program, Michael Butterfield, and Vincent McConnell of New Cokes 2024. And Vincent and I will also be recording a follow-up to talk about the Golden State Killer case, and that will be released perhaps next week on one of the dates in place of True Crime Talk Radio in the morning. But when I said that this is the best thing that I've ever done for the channel, what I mean is that I really wanted to create a daily program for people to listen to. And I know that I don't go live every day, but maybe at some point in the future, there'll be Monday through Friday, True Crime Talk Radio in the morning. And the things that I'm exploring are having more people involved with this, having a regular co host. And that's what I would like to really look into for 2025. And we're just going to see where that's going to go. But I've always been a fan of morning shows as well as evening shows where it's just someone is always online or always on the TV at the same time, and you know where to find their stuff, you know what to look for, and they just help people throughout their day. I mean, you guys must have found programs like that in the past, and I used to listen to a lot of the morning shows, and I would do this when I lived in Alaska. I lived in Anchorage, Alaska for 6 months, and I would stay up really late because I would work from 12 to 8 p.m. And I would just watch the morning shows at 2 o'clock in the morning right before bed. And it was kind of weird, but it's the time change because Alaska was out there. But yes, I'm going to be going back to the East Coast of the United States, and I will be spending Thanksgiving in the great state of West Virginia. Looking forward to that. But we're just going to have a lot of things to look forward to here on Black Box Online Radio. Casbah says, "Oh, what to do now on Tuesdays and Thursdays?" Hey, there's a lot of great content out there if you're interested in following true crime cases. Not only do we have Mysteries with Mr. Belgique, a lot of new episodes have been released on Planet X Filmworks. Drew Beeson is also putting out regular content on the Zodcast. Vincent McConnell of New Coast 2024 is putting out a lot of live streams talking about the Zodiac Killer, the Golden State Killer, and some related cases. Charlie says the Daily Show would be great. Well, it would, yes, it would, Charlie. It's just even me, somebody who has devoted the summer and the autumn of terror to this, like, I do Zodiac Monday, right? Ripper Wednesday and Cooper Friday. To do the live show in the morning and with also putting out a Zodiac Killer news report might not be the most feasible thing for Mondays, because it's not even so much the time, it's the material, because everything that I would normally put on the morning show would just be on the Zodiac Killer news report and vice versa. It really is just the amount of material. And some of the famous people out there who make content at that level, they have research teams and writers, and everything you see on Black Box Online Radio is 95% me. And then 5%, we have contributors like Sam Fisher made 2 episodes for Black Box Online Radio this year, and I thank him for that. And, sometimes people write out scripts for the show when they have something they want to talk about and they want a host like me to evaluate it. Sure, but it's really just something that I do love doing, and I'm still going to be exploring some possibilities with the lineup. But in 2025, there will be a return to the live streams, and also there are going to be a lot of new changes for Black Box Online Radio next year. And as you know, I have the channel membership now. See, Charlie is here with the star. Charlie has the star for the channel membership. That's mostly been ceremonial that people have been doing just to support Black Box Online Radio. But I'm going to be releasing a lot of features for the channel in 2025. And I was only hesitant to do that because I had several different possibilities and was kind of just picking a pathway and putting things forward. There will be some members only content that will be very, very informal, because this is a true crime channel. And I talk about stories of people being murdered and so on. And I really don't want to put things like suspect profiles for members only behind a paywall or something like that. I just don't even want to entertain that idea. But I don't mind maybe having one extra episode a week where it's just an informal chat about anything, as well as looking at some of the fictional sources. And there are a lot of pieces of fiction that have been inspired by the true crime cases that I talk about here on Black Box Online Radio. Ed Edward Cyphers is here. He says, "Hola." And Paranoid Android is here. He says, "Hi, how's it going?" And Melissa Rose is here. Says, "Good morning. You have a good time slot here, and you're on a roll, Ned." Well, yes, I always told you guys that True Crime Talk Radio in the morning was coming to you live for the summer and the autumn of terror. The autumn of terror goes till November 9th of 2024. Well, I guess every year since 1888. The autumn of terror was something that was created by Jack the Ripper back in 1888. But yes, the autumn of terror is August 31st to November 9th. And that was always in the cards. This is something that was always in the plan. And, Casbah says, let's get Ned national. I'm going to have to contact my contacts in the entertainment world. Thank you so much, Casbah. Well, you know where to find me, blackboxonlineradio at AOL.com, blackboxned88 on Instagram. And I do appreciate that. But as far as the future goes, I might not be able to put out Ripper Wednesday every single Wednesday, but there will definitely be a return of Ripper Wednesday in 2025, because even though the Ripper stories are not the most popular episodes of Black Box Online Radio, I'm just too deeply engrossed in that mystery that I cannot walk away. And also, as I said, there are lots of fictional stories that have been inspired by the cases that I talk about on Black Box Online Radio. So many of them are about Jack the Ripper, and they're just countless novels that have been written where the Ripper is the villain and so on. And that's something else that I do want to talk to you guys about. And this is just on a personal note. There is something that I'm planning for the future, and are going to be lots of book discussions on Black Box Online Radio, looking at some of the fictional sources. I've said for a long time that I wanted to read yours truly, Jack the Ripper by Pamela West, The Night of the Ripper by Robert Bloch, who wrote Psycho, and I want to go through the Win Weston Davies books, particularly Jack the Ripper, A True Love Story. Those books were written by a descendant of Mary Kelly, the final victim of Jack the Ripper. But there's a series of German stories that were written by a novelist named Jan Gaspard, and I would like to make my own individual translations of those stories and do some analysis of them. But you might be asking the question, these are German language stories. Do I speak German? No. And I would have to go through the language acquisition process. And this is something where I'm going to try and see if I can get credit from a university for doing, because I know it's not exactly research. It is, but it isn't. And I also want to say something on a very personal note. It was about 12 years ago when I was talking to someone, and they were telling me about their master's thesis. And they said that they were writing their master's thesis on Sherlock Holmes. And the person was actually studying North American studies. Her master's was in North American studies, and she wanted to compare Sherlock Holmes to fictional American detectives. And I was just sitting back, being an ignorant 23, 24-year-old, whatever I was. And I was like, what? You have an opportunity to write a thesis and that's what you're going to do with it? Flash forward to the present day, and I'm planning my dissertation on Sherlock Holmes and comparing and contrasting stories. And I really had one of those nothing like life to teach you a little bit more moments, because there's certain avenues that we want to explore, and it's purely for unrelated reasons. The fact of the matter is, I started talking to you guys about Jack the Ripper on Black Box Online Radio, and then the Ripper Wednesday segment was launched regularly, and I found there are these pieces of literature that I would like to analyze. And because it's such a long and extensive process, I'm going to try and see if I can get credit from a university, and that will be one thing that I would explore. And yes, at the doctoral level, but I don't have any solid timeline or time frame for that happening. That's what I'm going to be devoting a lot of time to in 2025. Charlie says, Ned takes pride in his work. Thank you so much, Charlie. You got a cheers from the Fox. But there have also been some novels that have been written about D.B. Cooper, and also novels that have been written about the Zodiac Killer, one of which is Zodiac Killer Dreams by Ray Grant. Ed Edwards says, Dr. Ned, at some point, though. But, Ed Edwards, I must remind you that it is a journey and it is a climb before you can get Doctor put on your name. And it is going to be an extensive process to do some things like that. But, I mean, some people have been saying that there are too many book discussions on the channel, and they want to hear more things like suspect profiles and, just talking about the different suspects in these unsolved mysteries like the Zodiac Killer, D.B. Cooper, and Jack the Ripper. And I don't mind doing that. But then other people are like, hey, you're talking about the suspects too much. I mean, we don't know if anybody was the perpetrator or not. And I'm like, well, it really is something where you cannot provide the content to everyone. But as far as Zodiac Monday has been going, I thank you guys all for checking out the episodes that have been made recently, the interviews, and a lot of people left some very positive feedback about the interview that I did with Michael Butterfield. And also, for last week's Zodiac Monday, the people who disagreed with Michael Butterfield, were fair and honest in the comment section, and they provided genuine feedback as to why they disagreed with him. But there are going to be just a lot of differences that are going to be happening with Black Box Online Radio, and I think that there is enough material to create a regular segment about fictional stories that will be coming out for the members only segment in 2025. And it's not only Jack the Ripper, there's also a set of stories written by W.L. Knightley, which is based on the Zodiac Killer. The first one is actually called the Zodiac Killer. And I couldn't believe it when I found this stuff about 4 years ago, that there were these novels that were written by a guy named W.L. Knightley. Actually, I know nothing about the person other than there were these Zodiac Killer novels where there's this fictional Zodiac Killer, and each novel is based on a different Zodiac sign. And I was like, wow, what a weird thing to do. I might give that one a chance. I might do some polling questions with you guys in the audience just to see what you want to hear about with on Black Box Online Radio, because this has always been aimed as an interactive channel where you can put your requests in the comment section down below. And I even talked about this once when I was a guest on Drew Beeson's channel, when I was just sitting around years ago thinking about what kind of YouTube channel do I want to start. And I had the idea, let's make a challenge question show about anything. When somebody is asking a question about sports, answer it. Conspiracy theories, answer it. Or talking about the weather, answer it. And that is really something that, I just thought that would be an entertaining idea, but this channel definitely didn't go in that direction. This went in the direction of true crime, which I have no problem with. And I've always been a true crime follower. I've always been a true crime fan ever since I was about 6 or 7 years old. But really, in my mid-20s, I think it was, I got pulled into the world of unsolved mysteries, and I am still there. And one point where I do agree with Little Bobby, also known as Robert Graysmith, is I'm not good at solving puzzles, but I don't give up. And Melissa says, I need to watch the interview with Butterfield. Sure, that's the most recent Zodiac Monday episode. And also, Michael Butterfield will be releasing a book for 2025. And I think it would only be fair and honest to do a book review of that one just for a Zodiac Monday episode. And let's see what he has to say. He's been talking about writing a book for about 20 years now, so give it a chance. Or what was it? Not 20 years, 30 years even. So let's see what there is to say. Dark Side of the Moon says, yeah, I was catching up on everyone's comments. Is Ned leaving? No, I'm not leaving, Dark Side. Just there will be a hiatus for the live streams, True Crime Talk Radio in the morning. And also, I would like to give a big thank you to everyone who left super chats and buymeacoffee.com and all of that. And as many of you know, I am an affiliate with Capital One, and the Capital One Quicksilver is something that I talk about here from time to time. Some people were complaining that they really don't like ads about that. I'm like, it only takes 12 seconds. But the Capital One Quicksilver is now offering a new bonus. You can get $300 as a sign-on bonus. They upped it from what was previously offered. It only takes 10 seconds. There'll be a link to that down below. And it's also just part of like real life, I guess. But Henrik is here. He says, what is your favorite mystery movie? Oh, a favorite mystery movie. I mean, I really have to go through all of that, catching me off guard with this one. I absolutely loved the ABC Murders, the Hercule Poirot movie that's based on Agatha Christie. And, it even ties into the Zodiac Killer mystery because there could be certain elements as to how and why this person was planning the murders. Now, Henrik, this is going to sound really weird, but about 20 years ago, maybe even 25 years ago, I saw this movie on the TV called Tenebrae, and I must be misremembering it. I was just watching it at about like 6 a.m. one day, and it was about this crime novelist who was being haunted by someone who was committing murders. Like, he's a novelist, right? So someone's recreating the murders from his novels as a way to scare him. But then the novelist figured it out halfway through, and he killed the real killer, and then he started portraying the role of the copycat. I know it sounds complicated, so I must be misremembering something, but I was like, 20 years ago, I would have been like 16, maybe even younger than that, like 12 or 13. I'm just sitting back watching this at 6 a.m. like, whoa, what a story. But, that's a very good question. I'm going to see if anything hits me as we keep going through with this one here. Casbah says, but when you do a live show, you can actually have people watching that might be interested in somebody else's PO buy or somebody else's theory, and it helps solve the crime. You never know who's watching. Absolutely not. And the live shows, they're interactive, and I get to talk to you guys. And Charlie says, ads pay money. We don't mind. Yes, just kind of part of life. And Ed Edwards Cypher says, why is Capital One a sponsor? No, they're not a sponsor. It's an affiliate thing, just if people sign up. But no, they don't sponsor. I've never had a sponsor for Black Box Online Radio. I used to do this intro that said the episodes were brought to you by McFarland Books because they donated like books to the show, but not money. No, I've never had a monetary sponsor. Now, Henrik is asking, have you seen Memories of Murder? I saw a movie with a similar title, but it's probably not the one you're thinking of. Is it called Memories of a Murder? The one that I saw was an amazing film, but it's about this girl who has a family that sells serial killer memorabilia. And she's always just wondering, why does my family run this store? Like they sell items that used to be owned by serial killers. And then she learns that her family has the gene for serial killers, like the genetic reasons why some people go on to become serial killers, a genetic predisposition to being a serial killer. That was a fascinating movie. It's like I think it was even made for TV. It had a low production value, but it was a great story because what Henrik is saying is there's memories of a murder and then memories of a murderer. And I don't think I saw the famous one. And Ed Edwards says, interesting story. I might also say it's diabolical. Which part's diabolical, Ed Edwards? Waste Management is here. Yo, Waste Management, how's it going? And Casbah says, and take people's comments nicely, not like some YouTubers who scream at their fans. Oh, there are a lot of those. There are a lot of those. And, it's always been somewhat of a mystery to me. But Ed Edwards says, like my documentary, maybe that's where he got the idea from. Well, you have to send me a link to the most recent documentary, Ed Edwards Cyphers. I would love to read that. Henrik says, that's not the one I'm talking about, but it sounds interesting, though. The one I'm talking about is a Korean mystery movie. It's really good. I would love to do that one and work that into perhaps even, a different episode of Black Box Online Radio, because one thing with the movies is you can look at how people are portraying a serial killer or a different type of criminal, and then how does that get... Like, how do you compare and contrast the character from the fictional story to a real-life killer? And I've done that a lot on Zodiac Monday in the past. And in 2023, at the end of the Zodiac Killer news reports for a couple weeks, I was even just talking about a crime drama, a different type of movie. And I put my fiance through the ringer. We've had to watch so many crime dramas because those are the types of movies that I like, but it happens from time to time. And we also have one from Waste Management. When I was a kid, I grabbed a library book with depictions of murder from the school library because I seen pics. Is that worrying? No, it isn't worrying. It's natural human curiosity. And this is what a lot of people don't understand about the true crime world. It is just one of those things where we want to know everything. You want to know what's behind the closed door. You want to know the secrets that people are hiding. And say, for example, somebody might tell you, no, you shouldn't look into that subject. It's too scary. It's too morbid. It's too gruesome. And the answer to that is always, why? And a lot of you guys, I'm sure every single person in the chat right now has had the experience of, no, I want to know, so I'm going to know. And I'm saying that because you guys are true crime followers. Charlie says, behind the green door. And, the honest answer is, we just want to know more about these different types of stories. And speaking of stories, I should also remind you guys that this weekend on Black Box Online Radio, I will be doing a short book discussion on Airlock 6 by Barbara Evans. And it is a novel that she has released. It's a sci-fi novel. She is the woman who runs the channel Oak Leaves and Onions, which I've talked to you about a lot here on Black Box Online Radio. And the content of the book doesn't seem like it's directly related to what she talks about on her YouTube channel, mostly about stories of personal experiences, relationships, psychology, health issues. All of that stuff's on Oak Leaves and Onions. But I'll be doing a very short book discussion on Airlock 6, which I invite you to check out. And there is now a completed playlist for the White Horse Killer Saga. as of yet, as for now, it's a completed playlist. I just finished the story, The Eyes of the White Horse, which was the fourth story in the White Horse Killer saga. And I was just telling you guys that True Crime Talk Radio in the morning is the best thing that I've done for the channel, but the White Horse Killer saga might be up there as one of the best things that I've done, purely in terms of creative expression. I love writing those stories ever since the first one, and I love creating that stuff. And I've definitely been a fiction writer even back when I was a kid. Like, I did not like reading when I was growing up. And now I'm talking to you guys about getting a PhD in literature and so on. Crazy world. I did not like reading at all, but I always liked writing. Ever since, the fourth grade or the fifth grade, I liked writing. And this is something that I do remember. When I was in the fourth grade, I decided that I wanted to be a movie director because I was watching a lot of action movies and they got the explosions and the car chases and the shootouts. And I was like, I would like to do that. I want to be a movie director. But then I noticed that I seemed to focus a lot more on the stories and the writing, and I didn't really like to play around with my camera. I like to play around with my notebook. So I thought, okay, I'm not going to be a film director. I'm going to be a screenwriter. And just when I was in the fifth grade and I had to do those projects like, what will I be when I grow up? I wanted to be a screenwriter. And then ultimately that turned into a novelist. So definitely for years, I just had this connection to stories. And the reason why is you don't just make a movie, right? Even if you can do it for a zero budget, you still need the crew, you need the actors, and you need an amazing set of post-production skills. But as far as writing a novel, you just write a novel and it's mostly done. There's more to it than that, but it's about the writing on the page. Casbah says, being interested in crime is human nature. Sexuality, needs. It is human nature. It is human nature because it's just a part of the world that some people don't want to explore and some people don't want to discuss and some people don't want to touch with a 39.5-foot pole. But I definitely think that you guys aren't really like that. And, for one thing, though, that I think might be a little bit different for this channel is, in terms of true crime discussions, is I wanted to do these True Crime Talk Radio in the morning episodes about general things. What did I tell you? Criminology, forensics, and criminal psychology. Then you could just ask questions about whatever true crime case you wanted, whether throw in a Zodiac question, a DB Cooper question, a Jack the Ripper question, and it's all on point. And I think something that's really going to change for 2025 when I restart the live streams is that there's going to be maybe some things that are more focused out of like specific parts of certain books. There are so many true crime books that I have on my reading list. Some of them would be Unmasked by Paul Holt, which I was talking about recently, and also Tears of Rage by John Walsh from America's Most Wanted. And I find that the older that I get, the people that I would watch on the TV as a kid have some questionable things in their past, but that's an example of one of the ones that I would like to discuss. Also, in terms of psychology, how about the Robert Hare books? Robert Hare, who designed the Hare checklist, and he was, responsible for more or less how we diagnose psychopathy. And the predecessor of Robert Hare, Hervey Cleckley, wrote a book called Mask of Sanity, which is one that I would love to explore and discuss with you guys here on Black Box Online Radio. And Henrik says, who would you consider more mysterious, Jack the Ripper, DB Cooper, or the Zodiac? The most mysterious, probably Jack the Ripper, because Henrik, when we have the crime scenes with the Ripper case, it's always like the Ripper might as well be a phantom. He might as well be a ghost. People just find the body, and the answer most of the time is just that this unknown perpetrator disappeared in the shadows without making a single sound. With the murder of Polly Nichols, it's like that. Either the explanations are either that it was Charles Allen Lechmere, the man who found the body, or the Ripper fled the scene just on his tippy toes without making a single noise and ran through the back alleys of Whitechapel. And last week, Yesterday, that would be this week, on Ripper Wednesday, I was talking to you about the suspect Isaac Kozabrodsky, who was one of the witnesses after the murder of Liz Stride. He becomes a suspect because he was at the crime scene. The alternative is the Ripper fled and ran through the streets of Whitechapel without being noticed. The same is true with the Mitre Square murder and Catherine Eddowes. And I think the Ripper is almost just operating like a phantom. With the Zodiac killer, we have an enormous amount of evidence. The Zodiac isn't operating like a phantom. The Zodiac is operating like a jerk, like a loser, like some pathetic individual who would sneak up and shoot kids when they're sitting in a parked car. Well, he ordered them out of the car at Lake Herman Road, but he shot them in the car at Blue Rock Springs, right? And then the shell casings are going all about. We have witness descriptions. We have composite sketches of the Zodiac killer. None of that is present with the Jack the Ripper case. Jack the Ripper committed the crimes by night, first of all. There are no reliable composites of the Zodiac. With D.B. Cooper, there is a mountain of evidence, of physical evidence. But with the Ripper, I would say he's the most mysterious because we know the least about the Ripper. We can't match a face to anything 100%. And also, the Ripper didn't leave a lot of evidence behind at the crime scenes. D.B. Cooper left a clip-on tie behind at the on the plane. They had D.B. Cooper's hair from the headrest, and the hair slide has been lost. They threw away D.B. Cooper's cigarette butts because they didn't know about DNA technology in 1971. Ridiculous. Melissa says, I'd love to see both of those, Paul Holes and John Walsh. Yeah, John Walsh actually wrote a second book before or after Tears of Rage, but he has more than one book out, and I just found out about the other book. That was one that I would like to just see what he has to say about. And Waste Management says, is that Ripper case definitively can't be solved in Zodiac? There is a small chance that it could be. You know, a lot of people think that the Jack the Ripper mystery cannot be solved. They think that there just isn't enough evidence, or even if it's mostly solved, we won't know the truth. Of course, there are theorists out there that think that they have solved the case, and there are also people who are composing their own suspect profiles that do a pretty good job. I wanted to say this on the most recent Ripper Wednesday episode. I give a lot of credit to Sarah Bax Horton, who wrote the book One Arm Jack. She is a Jack the Ripper suspect named Hyams. She did some painstaking research, going through the archives and the files, reading the descriptions about this person who was institutionalized named Hyams, who was an abusive alcoholic, who had disabilities. He had epilepsy, which caused seizures, which may have created fits of mania around the times of the murders. I mean, the amount of effort that she has put in is fascinating. Even if she didn't find the exact suspect who was Jack the Ripper. And I'm not saying that she's wrong. I would say that Hyams is a mid-level suspect. Now, it's called One Arm Jack because he had a disability with his arm, which for a while his arm was completely immobile in the early parts of 1888. By the Autumn of Terror, August 31st of 1888, reportedly he had gained use of his arm again. He just had lots of stiffness. That's kind of hard to examine, but I think that this is just something where we have to listen to certain people and we have to evaluate their information. And you might think, even if I'm not 100% certain, this might be the suspect that I'm going with. And this is exclusively related to the Ripper case, mind you. With D.B. Cooper and the Zodiac, these cases are still solvable. Absolutely. Now, it's getting a smaller and smaller chance of solving the case in the Zodiac killer mystery. And I had the opportunity to interview Mike Morford a couple times, and I'm not talking about our most recent interview. Last year on the channel, I had Mike Morford on as a guest to talk about the Golden State Killer. And I asked him a final question at the end. How would you feel if you did not get to see the Zodiac killer mystery solved? You saw the Golden State killer mystery get solved in your lifetime. How would you feel if you did not see the Zodiac killer mystery solved? And he said, well, I'd be a little bummed out, but I'm not optimistic that law enforcement will announce that they have solved the case. And over the last 12 months, I've mostly been entering into a similar category. And Casbah says, I worked with John Walsh, 1000% great man. Oh, is that right, Casbah? I know you've worked on TV before and you've worked with television programs. I didn't know you had worked with John Walsh. And I would expect that that's for America's Most Wanted, right? Even though he's done other things, like he had his own talk show, The John Walsh Show, which I referenced particularly for the episode, The Kidnapping of Paul Martin Andrews. There are almost 2,000 episodes of Black Box Online Radio. I invite you guys to check some things out. Ed Edwards says, so you're telling me there's a chance. What's there a chance for? Oh, a chance that we can solve the Zodiac Killer mystery. Yes, there is a chance. There is way more evidence in the Zodiac Killer case than the Jack the Ripper case. Waste Management says, what about Jimmy Hoffa? I know next to nothing about Jimmy Hoffa, other than the fact that he may have been buried at Giants Stadium, the 50-yard line, or the hump near the end zone. Lacey says, good morning, Ned and everyone. Good morning to you too, Lacey. And Casbah says, America's Most Wanted was based out of Florida. Yes, and Casbah, are you in Miami? I know you were talking about working on Dexter too, right? Captain Jenks says, did you ever explore the similarities between the Son of Sam and Zodiac? I did, Captain Jenks. There is an episode. It's an old Zodiac Killer news report that has the Son of Zodiac in the thumbnail. And that was done last year at the late summer, thereabouts. Summer of Sam, how appropriate. But another thing that I really should do for Zodiac Monday is go do a full book discussion on The Son of Zodiac by Jack Myers, because that's what that's all about. And that is something that is a little bit of unexplored territory. As I said, I've done episodes on that. I did a couple of Son of Sam episodes last year. One of them was on the death of John Carr, which turned into a very profitable discussion for me. By profitable, I mean like not like earning money from it. And as you guys know, I don't really earn a lot of money from these episodes. It's profitable, meaning it generated some very interesting discussions in the comment section. Maybe I should have said beneficial, or it just was mentally igniting. Maybe that's a better way of putting it. But yeah, that was on the death of John Carr, as well as the ones that I did talking about the ultimate evil and Maury Terry. Maury Terry may have been somewhat of a troll and a liar, but he definitely provided some interesting material for discussions. And Casbah says, I even played Juan Jesus Fritas in one of the episodes. Oh, of Dexter? Is that right? I'm going to have to go back and watch that because, it's been so long since I've seen Dexter. I remember some of the characters that you're talking about, the supporting characters, Freebo, Ramon, but Juan Jesus Fritas. I'll look into that. And Ed Edwards says, Casbah will be the second person I know that worked with him. See, I don't really know too many people who have worked with John Walsh. I guess I know Casbah, and if somebody else is out there, they can put it in the live chat or the comment section down below. River Prawn Pottery is here. Hey, River Prawn Pottery, how's it going? My prediction is that the Zodiac will be solved in the next 2 to 3 years. I hope so. And I have said this once, and I will say it again. I'm not one of these people who says the chase is better than the cash. No. I want answers. I want to know. I've even had those frustrating moments where it's almost just like, I just want to know what happened with these crimes, who was pulling the trigger, and also what were their movements. And we get close. We get close. I can tell you like 6 or 7 books the Zodiac Killer read, but I can't tell you his name. That becomes frustrating. And I hope that this case is solved, and we can just put that giant case closed stamp on it, and eventually move on to something else and let the victims truly rest in peace. Ed Edwards says, the Son of Sam and Zodiac. I like that. I'll have to look into it. Now, here's another thing, though. Some people say that individuals want the cases unsolved so that they can keep talking about them. Unsolved mysteries are profitable. I hear this stuff all the time. It used to be when I started this channel, they would talk about other people running websites and so on, making documentaries and writing books. They even say it about me now. Firstly, the Son of Sam case has been solved. People are still talking about David Berkowitz. The Golden State Killer case has been solved. People are still talking about D'Angelo. And if the Zodiac Killer mystery is solved, people are still going to talk about the Zodiac. And not like I probably wouldn't do Zodiac Monday. I mean, what am I saying probably for? I've decided that long ago. If the Zodiac Killer mystery has been truly solved and they've identified the killer, Then we get solutions to the Z32, Z13. We know everything. Oh, yes, I said I would retire Zodiac Monday, but it's an ongoing process, my friends. And Melissa says, what happened to Elijah Muhammad? That's what I want to know. And did he kill Malcolm X? I'd have to do a lot of research on that one, Melissa. I've done one episode on Wallace Farad Muhammad, and I mentioned him on several other ones. Like I did a Q&A session and an AMA from the old Wednesday show about Wallace Farad Muhammad, because it was in 2023 that somebody actually found his identification in the census records, and his legal name was not Wallace Farad Muhammad, Wally Fard, perhaps growing up, but that answered a lot of questions about what we were exploring, and a lot of us who followed that one wanted to know. But there's even this theory that Wallace Farad Muhammad and Elijah Muhammad conspired together to form some type of movement, and then it was all just a confidence scheme, like a con man scheme. Con man meaning confidence man. Now, the murder of Malcolm X, I could do something on that in the future. Captain Jenks says both random Lovers Lane letters mailed out. Oh, the Zodiac and the Son of Sam? Yes, yes. Now, who was it? I was just watching somebody's show when they said that the stories behind the real killer are far less interesting than anything somebody can create in their minds. Same is true for all of them. Zodiac, D.B. Cooper, Jack the Ripper. If they actually identify any of these people, you're probably going to find out that they were an ordinary low life who just did this stuff for attention, money, and power. And Andrew WVA is here. And how's it going? Oh, yes, he's the one who he was the one who asked the question before about the movies. But Andrew says, Memories of a Murder is a Korean movie based on a real-life South Korean story. And the killer in South Korea was caught a few years ago using DNA and is already in prison. Fire Pixie is here. Hey, Fire Pixie, how's it going? And Henrik says, wouldn't there be much information to come out about who the Zodiac was if the mystery was solved? Yes, absolutely. I mean, how many years has Berkowitz been behind bars and people are still talking about him? And they're still composing true crime theories about him, nonetheless. And then we have Maury Terry and the Ultimate Evil. Then we have The Son of the Zodiac by Jack Myers. People will not let the Zodiac Killer story rest, however. As I said, I would retire Zodiac Monday if we actually identified the killer, but we can see where other people will take their journeys. Time Theory says, there simply won't be much to talk about, probably because he's dead. So there will be no way to ask him why he did that. Well, what do we really know about the Zodiac? Did the Zodiac leave behind a diary? Did the Zodiac have a box in his attic with the Lake Berryessa hood and Paul Stein's wallet? I mean, does he have the solutions to the Z32 and the Z13 written in his secret lockbox somewhere? I don't know. If we have that stuff, then we have something to talk about. Oh, and Casbah says that he played the part on America's Most Wanted, not Dexter. All right, excuse me, Casbah, but thank you for clarifying. Wrathchild says, did Horan ever name his Paul Stein suspect? No, he did not. 4 years now, waiting. But he may have done it behind the paywall on his premium episodes. I don't subscribe to that, so I don't know. Casbah says, you'll be a top detective, Ned, solving Zodiac. Casbah, I'm going to leave that to the people in the crime labs, and I'm going to leave that to the people who are doing the genetic genealogical DNA testing, and also the people who are examining the fingerprints and so on. They're going to be the real heroes of this one, but thank you. Ed Edwards says, wouldn't it be something if he left clues that put together and explained why he did it? That would be interesting. Yeah, something like that could exist. Henrik says, I would love an episode about you breaking down Zodiac's life. It would be interesting. That would be most excitable, Henrik. I'll try and be careful with my words, because I still think the Zodiac was a terrible person. But Henrik, look up here. We know a little bit about the Zodiac's education, but not everything. There's a very big divide that people have, where some people think the Zodiac was brilliant and so overly educated, graduate degrees and all that. And then other people think this guy didn't have any education at all. He just liked to read books and he stole things from the books. And how about somewhere in the middle? when people think, okay, he wasn't extremely educated like a PhD or master's or anything, but he was on that track because he was a student at the time. I can tell you what I think in a future episode. That would be amazing. It's a good suggestion, Henrik. We might have to do that. But as far as things about what the Zodiac liked to read, what he put into the letters, the certain influences, these musical things, like Jerome from Mysteries with Mr. Belgique made some very good observations about how music notes could have been incorporated into the symbols and the ciphers. I'll hear people out on that stuff because I'm doing an interview soon with Vincent McConnell about the Golden State Killer, and I decided to listen back to one of my older Golden State Killer episodes. And what I said in that one 4 years ago was that sometimes people will present a theory in the true crime world, and it might sound like it's really, really different. Not bad, not dumb, not impossible, but different. And so many times people say, why are they talking about this? Do they really think that that's true? My answer is, let's find out. There are people out there that are genuine grifters and liars and fraudsters, sure. There are people out there as well that might not have a lot of substance to their claims, sure. But there are also people out there who are thinking about true crime cases in a very different way. And those are absolutely amazing. And just when somebody has a different type of insight that could lead to something, that's what I explore here on Black Box Online Radio. Cat Daddy Steve says, your opinion on Loring Hill after listening to his relatives. Oh, I've been listening to them for a very long time. And I think we actually have Melissa in the chat, who is his granddaughter-in-law. Is that right, Melissa? You know, there are a lot of strong points for Loring Dale Hill being the Zodiac Killer. His whereabouts are extremely well documented because of military records. And also the fact that he arrived in California on July 2nd of 1969, 2 days before the Blue Rock Springs shooting. And he left on January 7th of 69 after the Lake Herman Road murders. He was in Ohio for 3 weeks before the Lake Berryessa stabbing, then came back right before the stabbing took place. And not to mention all the clues that would indicate that the Zodiac was ex-military, particularly ex-Navy. And I definitely think that Loring Dale Hill would have had the brain for it. Now, as far as the full package theory about how he experienced a fire on the USS Enterprise that occurred on January 14th of 1969. And this is the stuff where I would have to challenge Melissa on simply by saying I'm uncertain of, like, was the Zodiac Killer choosing the symbol on the Halloween card like the flying V because it resembles the shape of the USS Enterprise? I'm not convinced of that. Not saying she's wrong. I'm just not convinced. And did he deliberately start that fire? I'm not convinced that he did. Now, I'm not saying she's wrong with that either, but Melissa, you do allege that Loring Dale Hill directly started the fire on the Enterprise. I'm not convinced that he did those things. But, I mean, there are some strong points. Not only that, he is the appropriate age, mid-30s, and he matches a lot of the physical descriptions, and they've had the meeting with the FBI. So let's just see where it goes. Okay, Henrik says, I don't think the deciphers is what will lead us to him at this point. No, absolutely not. You know, we saw that, Henrik, with the 340. They solved the 340. David Orenchak openly said on Black Box Online Radio about a couple weeks ago, he didn't think the 340 was going to reveal the Zodiac's identity. What did it reveal? Well, more Ovaltine, please. That's what all you guys were saying in the comment section a couple years ago. No, it just said, some gobbledygook from the Zodiac Killer's world about all these things that, he likes to say, slaves, paradise, death, but he didn't give away his identity. Why would he do that with the Z13 and the Z32? And we have one from Ed Edwards. Oh, you guys are talking so fast in the chat, I have to jump around. And where'd your comment go, Edwards? If I can find that, I will respond to it. But anyway, Time Theory says, oh, that would be the best case scenario. You're talking to Ed Edwards. That's why I misread that. But Henrik says, I don't think the deciphers will solve that. As I said, you guys are really jumping around in the chat a lot. Here it is. Got it. I work hard to eventually become a grifter, hopefully not a liar, and maybe a little bit of a fraudster myself. Ed Edwards, you need to go on a game show and pretend to be Ed Edwards. You and John Cameron can work something out. Jeff Thornton is here. Hey, Jeff, how's it going? Melissa says, what I'm saying is there is a connection between the USS Enterprise and the Zodiac that begs to be explored due to the points that I've shared prior. Absolutely. Do that. And if anything, Melissa, you may have provided a solid explanation as to what the Zodiac was doing for 6 months. And yes, I mean, you're not the first person to talk about how the Zodiac may have been out of the Bay Area with the military from December 20th of 68 to July 4th of 69. But once I saw that thing about, that's when the USS Enterprise was out of the Bay Area and then returned, then I was like, well, this is a solid explanation. And Jeff Thornton says, it's more likely the Zodiac didn't reveal his name in the cipher, but it's possible. Possible? I don't think someone as narcissistic as the Zodiac would turn that down. Instead, what I think he would do is, it would be done in a very intricate and twisted way that almost nobody would be able to figure out. But it's going to be there somewhere. Like somebody even told me once about like how if you were to take certain letters from the Z13 and you were to put them in a book or a document, that they would spell out things like you take like a 13 character line from a book and then you put that on top and then it's going to reveal the killer's identity when you combine the letters, something like that. But you'd have to know which book and you probably wouldn't figure it out. Okay. And everybody, this episode of True Crime Talk Radio in the Morning is winding down. And Six Man Films is here. And that's you, Lehman, right? Chael Sonnen's D.B. Cooper suspect was in the Navy and in the Bay Area in the mid-1960s. Oh, goodness, 1969. He would have been 27 years old, right? Six Man Films. Chael Sonnen's D.B. Cooper suspect. I guess we can say his name now, Thomas Eugene Jetty, if that is the right person. Well, the only issue with Thomas Eugene Jetty is he was Native American, and he definitely had a darker complexion. Very good match for D.B. Cooper. I know you didn't mean that he was the Zodiac, Six Man Films. No way he was Zodiac. Yeah, he doesn't exactly match the physical descriptions, but I suppose anything is possible. Now, as far as D.B. Cooper goes, I still think we need a better understanding of Chael's story. And I was asking you, Six Man, about, did you think that his drop zones were completely off point? I was looking at the maps again. Maybe they're not. I said that they were too far to the west, and maybe his drop zones in the D.B. Cooper case are actually a little bit more solid. But what I want to know is, what was the exact exit strategy that Chael Sonnen's D.B. Cooper suspect had? Because that will be very telling. And I've explored two viable possibilities. And this is why I wish I could just sit down with him. I tried to contact Chael Sonnen the way that Six Man Films did and the way that Nikki B did. And we just wanted some answers about this. Even if it turns out this guy isn't D.B. Cooper, we still want to hear these pieces of information in line because we have to explore the lead. And we're just kind of getting to this roadblock. And we're like, well, how do we get around the roadblock? And Casbah says the Zodiac used ciphers and cryptograms to confuse law enforcement, and he did a very good job at it. Casbah, 2 ciphers, unsolved to this day. The Z340 was unsolved, to the best of our knowledge, for 50 some odd years. All right, everybody. As I said, this episode of True Crime Talk Radio in the Morning will be concluding. Say one more goodbye to the Fox here, and it'll be a little bit of time will go by before the next True Crime Talk Radio in the Morning, the next live chat with everybody. But I thank you so much for supporting Black Box Online Radio. The absolute best thing that you can do for this channel is just by listening, visiting some of the episodes, and checking out some of the older live streams, some of the older episodes of Black Box Online Radio. Almost 2,000 episodes of BBO War have now been put out, but that does include the shorts and the small 1-minute announcements. And I just want to say, it's been an absolute pleasure being your host for the summer and the autumn of terror on True Crime Talk Radio in the Morning. And this show will resume in 2025. And there will be a lot more content coming out on Black Box Online Radio for the year of 2025. And I told you about the plans that are in the works, the book list, the reading list, lots of discussions, lots of avenues to explore with the Zodiac Killer Mystery, D.B. Cooper, Jack the Ripper, And a lot of these things where, as I said, we can just keep it true crime, and then you can ask any type of question you want and any type of discussion that you want. Rodney says, "Thank you, Ned. Hey, you're welcome." And Time Theory says, "I'll ask that question again next time." Let's see. Where's Time Theory saying? The chat's moving so fast. How do you feel about the possibility that the Zodiac was wearing a wig at Lake Berryessa? Hartnell never said it looked like a wig through the holes. I don't think he was wearing a wig at Lake Berryessa. Time Theory, I'll get yours real fast, because I mean, it's all they report is that they saw a man with brown hair. And one thing that Druser and I were talking about on Mysteries with Mr. Belgique is that we were talking about how maybe when Brian Hartnell said that he could see hair behind the sunglasses, maybe he was actually just seeing like folded fabric or crumpled fabric from the killer's mask that was pushed that way because of the lenses. So that might be something. That's why it looked like he had long hair that was going down over the nose. Because that's what I understand that he reported. He saw the hair going down like right at this part, and the killer had long hair. That's what may have happened. And Fire Pixie says, "I'm sad. I thought this started at 10:30. Well, there was the time change in America, but as you guys know, I did tell you that the live chats would be coming for the summer and the autumn of terror. The autumn of terror ends on November 9th of 1888, and we need to say rest in peace to Mary Kelly. And of course, there were victims of the Whitechapel murders that happened after her. Mary Kelly was murdered on November 9th, and there's the murder of Rose Milett on December 20th. And then in 1889, there was the murder of Alice Mackenzie, and in 1891, the murder of Frances Coles. Rest in peace to all the women of Whitechapel, the Zodiac killer victims, and everybody else out there who has been affected by serial killers. And to you guys in the chat, thank you one more time for supporting BBL War, and you have a nice day, okay? Until next time.